Every year, over 300,000 elderly individuals are hospitalized due to injuries sustained from falls. Nearly half of these cases, approximately 45%, are linked to improperly fitted footwear. This issue quietly deprives many seniors of their ability to move and live independently. Consider the story of Thomas, a 72-year-old retired teacher. His life took a dramatic turn after he slipped on a wet floor while wearing his old moccasins. A fractured hip led to a disheartening prognosis from doctors. He might never walk without assistance again. However, as will be shown, Thomas managed to defy these predictions. What follows is the story of how he went from struggling to reach his mailbox to actively hiking mountain trails with his grandchildren. This was made possible by avoiding 8 common footwear mistakes that many seniors make daily. Shoes that felt comfortable in your 40s can be entirely unsuitable and even dangerous in your 70s. This isn't just hyperbole, it reflects the biological changes occurring in the body. As we age, the way our feet interact with surfaces changes, and our footwear must adapt to these changes. There are 3 key changes in the foot that are often overlooked. First, there is a significant thinning of the fat pad that once cushioned each step, making bones and nerves more vulnerable to impact. Second, after the age of 65, the nerve receptors responsible for maintaining balance decline by 30%. Third, joints become more sensitive to displacement, which can lead to small gait issues causing chronic pain throughout the body. Thomas's story serves as a stark reminder of how neglecting footwear choices can lead to serious mobility problems for seniors. As Thomas himself admitted, he continued to wear his usual shoes, unaware that his feet had undergone age-related changes, and no one had warned him of the impending danger. This article will examine 8 types of footwear that pose a hidden threat to the foot health of older adults. It's not just about identifying problems, but also presenting 3 revolutionary solutions that orthopedic doctors recommend to their parents, but rarely discuss with patients. These strategies, which proved effective in Thomas's case, can restore freedom of movement and independence to seniors. If readers are interested in tips that can dramatically change their lives for the better, it's recommended to bookmark this article to help other seniors access this important information. Readers are encouraged to share their experiences in the comments related to foot pain that limits their freedom and ability to engage in activities they enjoy. They may be surprised to learn how many people face similar issues. Let's start with a type of footwear that seems harmless but actually hides a sinister secret, even in its most moderate forms: high heels. Wearing heels, even small ones with a height of 1 to 2 inches, leads to an unnatural shift in the body's center of gravity forward. A heel of just 2 inches increases the pressure on the ball of the foot by as much as 75%. This forces the toes into a compressed state throughout the day. But the negative impact isn't limited to the feet. The knees, hips, and lower back are forced to compensate for this unnatural position, leading to a range of problems. Janet, Thomas's wife, experienced this truth firsthand at the age of 68, after years of working as a bank manager, during which she favored practical 2-inch pumps. She admitted that she thought this was a reasonable choice, believing she was avoiding the harmful effects of high heels. However, after retiring, she faced serious problems. Her feet seemed to have lost their structure, and the bunions she had ignored for years became a source of unbearable pain. Ultimately, Janet required surgery, a painful procedure that required a 12-week recovery period. This temporarily deprived her of her independence, especially at a time when she and Thomas were planning to travel. Examining a foot pressure map, even when wearing shoes with a modest heel, clearly demonstrates dangerous areas of pressure concentration that eventually lead to changes in the architecture of the foot. By the age of 60, a person's foot has endured approximately 75 million steps, each of which can pose a threat with the wrong footwear choices. This is the hidden danger that many doctors prefer not to mention. The problem lies not just in the heel height, but in the cumulative damage that builds up over the years, suddenly manifesting after the age of 60, when the fat pad thins and no longer masks existing problems. Even if a woman currently wears heels only occasionally, the consequences accumulated over previous decades can negatively affect her mobility now. Foot deformities like bunions, hammer toes, and shortened Achilles tendons significantly increase the risk of falls and chronic pain. Many women likely still have elegant high heels in their closets for special occasions. Another type of footwear that can pose a danger to foot health, especially for those living in warm climates, is flip-flops. These seemingly harmless summer favorites can actually harm the feet. When walking in flip-flops, the toes are forced to unnaturally clench to keep the shoe on the foot. This constant clenching leads to a change in natural gait and creates tension that spreads throughout the foot. Unlike proper shoes that support natural movement, flip-flops force the feet to adapt to them, which is detrimental to aging feet. Moreover, flip-flops provide virtually no arch support and minimal cushioning. Each step transmits impact directly to the bones and joints. In youth, resilient tissues can recover, but after 60, repetitive trauma accelerates joint deterioration. Thomas learned a painful lesson during a trip to Florida. He recalled wearing flip-flops everywhere, by the pool, in restaurants, and even while walking on the beach. By the third day, he could barely put weight on his heel. Thomas developed plantar fasciitis, an inflammation of the tissue connecting the heel to the toes. It took 6 months of physical therapy to recover, costing him half a year of active living. Many people in middle age face a problem they are unaware of until it is too late. Pain sensations are not limited to the feet. The altered gait caused by foot discomfort leads to increased stress on the knee joints, as well as uneven hip joint function, which in turn causes imbalances in the lumbar spine. Improper footwear can trigger a chain reaction of negative consequences for the entire body. Even if wearing flip-flops caused no problems in youth, with age, the feet are no longer able to withstand such stress. After 60, the need for additional support becomes critical. However, there is another common mistake in footwear choice that many people make daily without realizing its consequences. This mistake can negatively impact a person's mobility. It involves worn-out sneakers that still look presentable. Most older adults are unaware that athletic shoes lose about 40% of their cushioning and support in just 6 months of regular use, even if there are no visible signs of wear. The midsole foam, which is meant to absorb shock with each step, deteriorates imperceptibly, making the joints vulnerable to impact forces that can be 3 to 5 times the body weight. This creates a dangerous situation, especially relevant for the older generation. In the minds of many people whose parents lived through the hardships of the Great Depression, the habit of taking care of things is deeply ingrained. They were taught to use everything to the last possible extent until it wore out, and to replace items only when absolutely necessary, when damage became obvious. If you add a fixed penchant to this mindset, you get the perfect formula for using shoes for as long as possible, even if they no longer perform their function. A typical example of this approach is Thomas's story. He proudly stated that his sneakers looked great even after 3 years of wear. The tread was in good condition, no holes were visible, and overall they seemed quite usable. Thomas did not realize that it was these worn-out shoes not providing adequate support that were causing his unexplained knee pain, which gradually led to a sedentary lifestyle. There is a simple test that everyone can do right now. Take your everyday shoes and try to twist them from heel to toe. If the shoe twists easily, it means that the supporting structure is destroyed, even if it looks perfect. A quality shoe should only bend in the metatarsal area, not twist like an old rag. When Thomas finally decided to replace his still good sneakers with a new pair, his knee pain disappeared within 2 weeks. Spending $70 on new shoes saved him from a potential $40,000 knee replacement surgery. It begs the question, when was the last time you replaced your everyday shoes? If it's been more than 6 months since you started wearing them daily, it might be time for a replacement. Timely shoe replacement can save you from unnecessary pain and significant medical expenses. Fourth on the list of treacherous footwear posing a hidden threat are ordinary backless slippers, often found comfortably near a favorite armchair. These seemingly harmless companions of home comfort are actually among the most dangerous items around. When wearing backless slippers, a person's gait undergoes subconscious changes. Each step is accompanied by a reflexive clenching of the toes, trying to keep the shoe in place, leading to a shortened stride and muscle tension that spreads up the legs. In addition, the heel lifts slightly earlier in the walking cycle, and ankle stability decreases by up to 65%. All these minor adjustments significantly impair balance, and the person may not even realize the change is occurring. Statistics are alarming. 38% of falls at home among older adults are associated with unsuitable footwear, with backless slippers leading the list of causes. Such falls often occur in situations requiring quick reaction or regaining balance, such as answering the doorbell or moving on stairs. Thomas personally witnessed this danger when his neighbor Ruth, an energetic 78-year-old woman, tripped on the stairs while wearing her favorite backless slippers. She had been wearing that type of shoe for decades, Thomas recalls. The paramedics told me they encounter similar cases several times a week. Ruth's fall resulted in a broken wrist, severely limiting her independence for several months. The treachery of slippers lies in the deceptive sense of comfort they provide. The ease of putting them on, the softness of the material, and the familiar shape create an illusion of safety, while in reality they subtly undermine stability with every step. This risk increases especially after the age of 65, when the body's balance systems are already weakened. It's worth considering, would anyone refuse to wear a seatbelt in a car just for more convenience? However, many older people put themselves in danger every day, risking their mobility and independence for the questionable convenience of backless footwear. To many people's surprise, orthopedic doctors are increasingly recommending alternative options for wearing at home. Complete abandonment of traditional slippers, according to clinical studies, can reduce the risk of falls by up to 62%. Another common but deadly mistake in shoe selection is wearing shoes with smooth, worn, or slippery soles. These silent killers turn ordinary surfaces into potentially dangerous zones. Close attention should be paid to shoes and moccasins, especially common in the wardrobes of older adults. Over time, the bottom surface of the shoe wears away, depriving it of the tread pattern that provides grip. Even new shoes often prioritize aesthetics over safety, offering leather soles with minimal grip. Few realize that grip decreases by approximately 75% as the sole ages and wears. This decrease becomes critical in combination with typical household situations. A few drops of water on kitchen tiles, a wet bathroom floor, or morning dew on porch steps. In such conditions, even a slight loss of grip can lead to falls with serious consequences. Thomas's tragic case serves as a stark reminder of how underestimating minor factors can lead to serious consequences. Shortly before his fateful fall, he encountered a seemingly harmless situation. "I was in the kitchen wearing my favorite leather-soled moccasins," Thomas recalls. "My wife had wiped the countertop, and a tiny amount of water, literally a couple of drops, ended up on the floor. My foot slipped instantly. I didn't even realize what had happened." This minor slip forced Thomas to make an awkward movement to regain his balance, resulting in excruciating back pain that haunted him for several weeks before the more serious incident. The warning sign was obvious, but like many older people, he ignored it, attributing everything to a simple accident, unaware that the shoes were the catalyst. There is a simple test that everyone can do right now. When putting on your everyday shoes, place one foot on the tile surface in the bathroom and gently try to slide it forward. If your foot moves easily, it indicates that you are exposing yourself to potential danger every day. Safe shoes should resist slipping, even on the smoothest surfaces. Have you ever had situations where you narrowly avoided falling and brushed it off, attributing it to your own clumsiness? Share your stories in the comments. Your experience can help others recognize warning signs before something irreparable happens. Sixth on the list of deadly shoes is narrow footwear, a problem affecting millions of seniors who don't realize how their feet have changed over time. As we age, our feet naturally widen. After decades spent on our feet, the ligaments and tendons supporting the foot bones gradually stretch, allowing the bones to spread. By the age of 70, the average person's foot is almost half a size wider than it was at 40. Despite this, many elderly people continue to buy shoes the same size they wore decades ago. By squeezing their widened feet into narrow shoes, they not only experience discomfort, but also actively restrict blood flow to their extremities. This is especially dangerous for people with diabetes or circulatory problems. Moreover, compressed nerves in narrow shoes can trigger or exacerbate neuropathy, causing numbness that significantly increases the risk of falls. Thomas learned a painful lesson while preparing for his grandson's wedding. "I hadn't worn these shoes in years, but my old pair still fit, or at least I thought they did," he said. By the start of the reception, his feet were burning with pain. But the worst was yet to come. Nerve compression after 6 hours of wearing narrow shoes triggered neuropathy symptoms that lasted for weeks. Thomas temporarily lost sensation in some parts of his feet, leading to repeated stumbles. This serves as a vivid illustration of the insidious domino effect, where a seemingly minor problem in one area of the body can trigger a whole chain of negative consequences. Pain sensations in the lower extremities can transform the natural manner of movement, initiating compensatory mechanisms that create excessive stress on the knee joints, hip area, and lumbar spine. Even a single day spent in inappropriate footwear can be the starting point for the development of months-long mobility problems affecting the entire body. Often, older people do not take into account the fact that the width of the foot can change over time, regardless of its length. Therefore, even if shoes seem long enough, they may be dangerously narrow, restricting natural movement and circulation. However, the next mistake in choosing shoes may be happening right now as the viewer watches this video. And remarkably, most medical professionals overlook this important aspect, failing to warn their patients about the potential risks. The seventh deadly shoe option is walking barefoot. This seemingly harmless choice, where shoes are absent altogether, is an increasingly common habit, moving around the house without any protection for the feet. While it may seem natural and comfortable, walking barefoot in old age carries serious risks that young people generally do not face. Many older adults don't realize that walking barefoot increases the likelihood of falls by as much as 37% compared to wearing the right, supportive house shoes. In the absence of cushioning and necessary support, the mechanisms responsible for maintaining balance have to work with increased intensity with each step, especially when moving on hard surfaces such as parquet or tile floors. Modern flooring poses a hidden threat in the form of impact loads. Walking barefoot on parquet or tile floors creates 7 times more impact on the joints than walking on grass or carpet. For aging joints already prone to arthritis or degenerative changes, such impact loads can accelerate destruction and increase pain. Thomas personally faced these risks when he stepped on a tiny breadcrumb in the kitchen and suffered a minor cut due to diabetic neuropathy. This small injury developed into a dangerous foot ulcer, requiring 3 months of treatment and specialized care. This case refutes the common belief that walking barefoot is more natural and therefore beneficial for everyone. While young individuals with intact protective fat pads, strong foot arches, and full sensation may benefit from occasional barefoot walking, aging feet need constant protection and support, especially on the hard modern surfaces our ancestors never encountered. Orthopedic surgeon Dr. Sarah Jenkins aptly compares barefoot walking for elderly patients to removing the shock absorbers from a car whose suspension system is already in poor condition. The eighth and perhaps most common mistake that poses a serious health risk to the elderly is the universalization of footwear, where one pair is considered suitable for all activities. As we age, our feet require different types of support tailored to specific movements and stresses. The lateral stability needed for gardening differs significantly from the cushioning required for long walks or the surface grip that is critical when moving on slippery surfaces. However, research shows that the vast majority of elderly people, around 78%, tend to use the same pair of shoes for all occasions. A typical example is the story of Thomas, who admitted that his favorite New Balance sneakers, purchased for a hefty sum, had served him faithfully in all situations, from daily walks and gardening to attending church, when regular shoes caused discomfort. At first glance, this approach may seem practical and economical, but in reality, it negatively affects mobility and health. While gardening, walking shoes did not provide sufficient lateral support when changing body positions, which led to excessive stress on the knee joints. During walks, soil that had accumulated in the shoe tread after gardening reduced traction on the pavement, increasing the risk of falls. In addition, neither of these activities was optimal for the shoes themselves, leading to premature wear. In this context, the idea of activity zoning becomes a key point for older adults. Podiatrists strongly recommend differentiating the shoe wardrobe, allocating at least 3 separate categories: everyday support shoes, specialized shoes for specific activities, and protective home shoes. Each of these categories is designed to accommodate the unique movements and types of surfaces that a person encounters in various situations. Many elderly people make the common mistake of investing in one universal pair of shoes instead of providing themselves with suitable footwear for each activity. However, if you look at the financial side of things, a single visit to the emergency room caused by a fall can cost $300, which exceeds the cost of purchasing all 3 specialized pairs of shoes combined. Consider the solutions that have radically changed the lives of Thomas and thousands of others in similar situations. These are 3 evidence-based approaches that have significantly reduced the risk of falls and restored the joy of pain-free movement, often within weeks of starting them. The first of these life-changing solutions may seem simple, but for most older adults, it is a real revelation. Obtaining professional footwear advice from a specialist with in-depth knowledge of the characteristics of aging feet. Did you know that more than 80% of adults wear the wrong size shoes? This striking statistic comes from a podiatric study that showed that most people choose shoes that are either too short, too narrow, or both. It is important to note that the correct shoe size can change throughout life. Typically, after the age of 60, people gain at least half a size in width due to the natural expansion of the foot structure. Professional footwear advice goes far beyond simply using the measuring device that many people have known since childhood. To find the perfect shoe, many factors must be taken into account, and a simple trip to a regular shoe store may not yield the desired result. The process begins with carefully measuring both feet, and this should be done standing, not sitting, because the foot changes size under the weight of the body. It is important to measure the width of the foot at several points, not just in the metatarsal area. Assessing the height and flexibility of the arch also plays a key role in determining the required level of support. And finally, gait analysis allows you to see how a person moves, identifying unique pressure points and movement patterns. Thomas, being skeptical, decided to go to a specialized shoe store, driven by desperation. The salesperson spent about 40 minutes with me, he recalls. She explained that I had been wearing shoes that were a full size too narrow for decades. When I tried on the shoes she recommended, I felt like my feet could finally breathe again. To find a true shoe-fitting specialist, look for stores that specialize in comfort or orthopedic footwear rather than typical shoe stores. Large chain stores rarely have the expertise to deal with age-related foot changes. Inquire whether the specialists have certification or specific training in geriatric foot issues. In some regions, you can find podiatrists, specialists who have undergone specific training in fitting shoes to treat various foot conditions, ensuring the highest level of knowledge. When visiting a specialist, ask specific questions, such as, how does my arch height affect my shoe choices? Where is the greatest pressure when walking, based on my gait? And what shoe features should I consider? Based on my foot structure? When was the last time specialists measured your feet? Many will probably answer never, or it was a very long time ago. The second important step that radically changed Thomas's approach to mobility was his developed three-zone footwear system focused on the needs of older adults. This innovative approach recognizes that there is no one-size-fits-all shoe that can safely support the variety of movements a person makes throughout the day. The first zone is footwear for the home, the cornerstone of fall prevention. Ideal footwear for the home should have a closed heel to provide stability, a non-slip rubber sole to ensure reliable grip on any surface, and a design that allows you to easily put on and take off shoes without compromising safety. Thomas found that properly fitted footwear for the home almost completely eliminated his morning stiffness, providing the necessary support for his feet from the moment he woke up. The second zone is everyday support footwear, reliable companions in everyday activities and chores. This type of footwear should provide adequate arch support appropriate to the individual's foot type, cushioning proportional to body weight, and stabilizing elements such as a wider sole and secure closures. According to Thomas, properly fitted everyday footwear relieved him of excruciating knee pain in just a few weeks. Zone 3 represents specialized footwear created for specific activities, a kind of specialized tool for performing niche tasks. Footwear designed for walking should be flexible in the forefoot and provide cushioning in the heel area. Gardening requires footwear that provides ankle support and has a sole with a pronounced tread for confident movement on uneven surfaces. Even for formal events, you can find footwear that combines modern design with hidden comfort elements, looks formal, but still provides the necessary foot support. The genius of this system lies not only in its physical benefits, but also in its financial efficiency. Thomas, with a fixed income, has successfully implemented this system by strategically planning his budget. He explained, I spent the most money on my everyday footwear because I wear it about 60% of the time. For special needs, I found budget options and bought footwear on sale. Ultimately, it costs less than the money I spent on painkillers each year. The third solution, according to doctors, has the most significant impact on improving mobility in older adults, even when other methods are ineffective. This concerns a fundamental aspect of movement, custom orthotics and strategic shoe adjustments that turn even ordinary footwear into a therapeutic tool. Many older adults do not realize the fundamental difference between ordinary insoles purchased in a store and real orthotics. Universal insoles only add cushioning, while orthotics actually correct biomechanical problems that occur when walking. The analogy can be made: insoles are comparable to reading glasses sold at a pharmacy, while orthotics are lenses made to an individual prescription, precisely calibrated to a person's unique needs. It is worth noting that effective orthotics do not always require expensive custom manufacturing by an orthopedist. Thomas found the optimal solution: heat moldable inserts that cost no more than $40. They need to be heated in the oven and then stood on to create a footprint, he explained. They provide support to my arches in the exact places I need it, rather than just generally. These semi-custom options offer surprising effectiveness for most older adults without severe foot deformities. Studies show they provide 70 to 80% of the benefits of fully custom orthotics at only about 15% of the cost. People with Medicare should know that custom orthotics may be covered if prescribed for specific conditions, such as severe diabetic neuropathy or foot deformities. The key phrase to use when talking to your doctor is therapeutic molded shoes for fall prevention. Framing the medical necessity this way often leads to insurance approval. Even minor improvements can transform everyday shoes, significantly enhancing comfort. Professional shoe stretching, available for around $15, can substantially expand space in problem areas. Placing cushioning pads in high-pressure spots can turn uncomfortable shoes into a source of comfort. Replacing standard insoles with gel alternatives can noticeably reduce impact by about 40%. Thomas, having witnessed the effectiveness of these methods, now applies them to every pair of his shoes. He notes that this allows him to enjoy the comfort of custom-made shoes without having to buy new ones. Through such modifications, he not only extends the life of his shoes, but also makes each pair more beneficial for his foot health. Readers are encouraged to share their experiences with custom insoles or orthotic devices to help others find solutions for foot pain relief and restored mobility. Returning to Thomas's story, 6 months after implementing these simple solutions, his life has dramatically changed. He enthusiastically recounts how he stopped taking daily pain relievers and began walking 5,000 steps without the slightest discomfort. The constant fear of falling, which previously confined him to his home, has completely disappeared. Objective measures also confirm positive changes. Balance test results improved by 38%, and he has had no falls since changing his approach to shoe selection and modification. However, the emotional impact of these changes has been even more profound. Thomas joyfully shares memories of a recent hike with his grandchildren on a nature trail, displaying photos of him confidently traversing uneven terrain. His 9-year-old grandson asked why he had never done this before, and Thomas admitted that he was simply too afraid to try. This is a stark contrast to his previous life, when he was mostly housebound, missing family events, and watching life from the sidelines. Consider the profound meaning of the following statement. The shoe choices made today directly influence the freedom of movement in the future. In other words, decisions made in the present can either restrict a person or, conversely, open up new horizons for them. Let's briefly recall the 8 common shoe mistakes that were discussed in detail earlier. Commitment to high heels, a careless attitude toward flip-flops, using worn-out sneakers, wearing backless slippers, choosing shoes with smooth soles, preferring narrow shoes for special occasions, the habit of walking barefoot, and the mistaken belief that one pair of shoes is suitable for all situations. Implementing 3 key solutions, professional shoe fitting, using the 3-zone system, and applying custom orthotics, can significantly reduce the likelihood of falls and restore the joy of active living. Thomas's story is a prime example of how these measures can help someone regain mobility and energy.